and today's topic is about how you prepare for your next big crisis. The kind of big crisis that this webinar will focus on is what we call corporate incidents. ServiceNow can help you automate processes so your company can react fast when a crisis hits. And this way your response to the corporate incidents can become operational and efficient. In about 45 minutes, we will wrap up, and later today you will receive an email with a link to the webinar. So you will have the option to catch up in case you should miss some of it. I hope you will enjoy the content, and now I pass the word over to Niels.
Thank you very much. Yes, my question for today is, or topic for today is, how well prepared are you for your next disrupting event? And yes, anything can be disruptive, but today we'll see the scope is going for the big crises that can emerge into a company. And why should we consider this topic for the agenda today? And say, the issue is that a large crisis or a big disrupting event that occurs around your company or inside your company can actually disrupt your daily operation of the company. And for some crises, it may take down the company as a whole if the crisis is not managed in the proper way. So that should set the seriousity about this issues you can raise onto. What we'll look into today is that we'll focus firstly on the major crises and the management of them. We'll focus on the crises that occur in the business area, not in the IT area, as we has done on other occasions and are very popular around industry of IT. We'll look into other elements. What we'll be looking at will be how can you work not only with management of your crisis when they occur, but also what can you do before they arise? How can you be prepared, and what elements can you work with in that travel? We'll discuss a little bit about how you will improve your organization's resilience against disasters and crises. Can you improve your profile so you will not be so prone to what's the impact of a crisis that occurs and inflicted on you? Because as we have seen around, there are ways you can work and things you can do in your organization to improve your resistance against the impact of a crisis. DXC has identified a number of business practices that are in the most of the companies we are looking into, and they have set out and say, okay, you can work with operational resilience in several ways. And you see here they have identified 12 disciplines. We'll not be focusing on all of them today. We'll only be focusing on crisis management and on the communication around crisis management. And then again, the other element is the incident response, meaning this is not the major incidents in the business. It's a more limited scope of incidents. So we'll focus about what you can do around that. Likewise, we'll not recommend that you in your company go around and say, okay, we'll start crisis management and we'll work on operational resilience throughout all disciplines within the company. If you do that, you'll probably face a very large project and very costly project. So the recommendation is pick out the, so to say, low-hanging fruits and work on those, and then progress on further for the next discipline of business operation. Our focus is, of course, what services can we deliver to you that will increase your ability to handle the crisis. And what we're talking about today is a application-based system that can assist your management to gain overview of the crisis. You'll have a 360 degrees overview of the situation in your company when the crisis strike you. That means that management will have a better insight into the fact that are around every detail of the crisis. They'll have a nice overview of if more crises are running in the same time. And when they make decisions will be based on facts, meaning more likely that it is the right and the beneficial decision you're taking. The application is built on ServiceNow's Now platform. And some of you will, of course, know ServiceNow as a system you're using in your business already. But just a short introduction. ServiceNow is typically a cloud-based solution where we have a lot of strong tools collaborating together to provide a good solution. We have an interface towards all your other applications inside your business. It might be your ERP, your CRM, or your marketing system, or supply chain system. We have listed a lot in the bottom here, but ServiceNow has a lot of standard interfaces towards a lot of systems that are placed in most businesses' IT infrastructure. So that gives the ability to feed data into the business systems. For instance, if you have a customer relations system, you can post messages around your crisis into that, saying, okay, we have a communication with our customers. That way we can bring out the communication through the system the customer use. We can bring in information from other systems. That can be, if you have the supply chain system and you have an emergency alert coming in from your supplier, we can forward that to the emergency handling system here that's in ServiceNow. Likewise, ServiceNow has the capability of communicating with a lot of different means, and we list some of them here. That is, we have the mobile app for ServiceNow native. We have short text messages. We have a web interface. We can even go into chat systems like Teams, providing live communication and live updates of users and partners and so on. So we have a strong platform to building in on. The DXC scoped app is scoped in the way so when it is maintained, it'll go maintenance side by side with the platform. So you will have a little impact of IT operation in this, as is known from the ServiceNow system. When the crises occur, most companies today, they'll have a plan, or they might not, but at least they will put together a group of people they want to work with the crisis they are in, called a situation room. And this is the basis for the operation inside this corporate incident response application. We organize the work with crisis inside situation rooms, and we'll have a series of them. As you can see here, we have 7 categories at the display I have in the left side. We can build another if needed, but I don't think we'll need that many more. So when you have a crisis, you can go in, pick the category for your situation, and then you can amend a response plan, a pre-prepared response plan for that. So you can easily work with it on Watch. On the right-hand side, I have an overview for a company that's facing a series of crises. And by the overview, you can see crises can occur in different places in the company. So if you have a location in London or in Amsterdam, they can both face a crisis. It can be this part of the same main crisis, or it can be different events coming up. So by this, you'll have a fast overview and say, okay, have I any events running in my company at the current moment? this company seems to have a issue with some illness going on. When you pick a situation room, you drill into the details of this specific event and the specific emergency plan you have. As you can see here, we have a situation in the health and medical area, or the parent situation is health and medical. Several events can be tied together into a single management or situation room. Here we're dealing with a location in London. We can see we're working on the business continuity. We can see when we started this event, and we can see how many people are affected. The number of people that are affected can come from different sources. We can go into our Active Directory, filter out and see how many people are actually working in this location. We can have a fixed number defined in the system to say, okay, we have this number working in, or we can make the integration towards the access management system in the building. So by pulling out data from the access management system, we can have an updated number and say we have 13 people in the building, if that's a relevant number to have. And we have the status that this is ongoing. On the right-hand side of the screen, you can see a list of the response team. You can form a response team from any employee that's in the system, but you'll know who to fit in, and you'll probably prepare your emergency plan with roles that are needed for a specific type of events. And the center pane of this response plan, that's the actual response plan itself. The response plan in our thoughts are workflow. Like you'd have a workflow for everything in your company, the response plan is also a workflow, meaning that we can build it up to support your knowledge of, I'm doing this and I have this result of my action. What would be the next thing to do? In this case, we have the green question saying, is the building empty? You can reply for yes or no. You might have a third option that I don't know. And you can see here, if the building is empty, and this is coming in from the on-site manager that has controlled the building, he reports, I have checked, the building is empty. Then the plan will automatically close down and say, okay, I was finished because I ended with emptying the building. Or he reports, it's not necessarily empty, or he positively not empty, then you can have the building was not in, and you can go in and have other actions. Other actions can be to assign someone with a task, or it can be send out messages for people. And that can be automated or semi-automated or even manual. That depends on the type of task you're into. A brief look on messaging. As I said, the ServiceNow platform is very capable of reaching out and sending messages in several kinds of ways. And when you form a message in this system, you can have either a static message that you send out, you can have a message that you type in at the moment when you want to send it, or you can have an automated message where you combine static messaging with actually updated information. So if the building manager puts in something in his report, it could be part of the message going out to either a specific group or to the whole population that is inflicted by this incident. So you can easily be updating all your users and all the relevant, and not over communicating to everybody with nonsense that they say, oh, I don't care if the building is empty because I'm in New York. The application, as I've shown until now, has been on a computer screen. but it's not a good way to work with an application today, because everybody has a smartphone in their pocket or in their hand, and they are not necessarily at their desk where the computer is. So, of course, the ServiceNow app can be utilized to work with this application. You have the same overview. You can choose which situation rooms you're going into. You can see which response plans that are present in the system, and you can even start the emergency from your application on the phone. You can work with the details you have here on the second screen, the same details as we had in the previous slides. And when you're on the phone, you have an ability that's not on your computer typically. You have a set of tools in your mobile phone, like you have the camera. So in order to increase the value of your reports, make things clear, you can add pictures. You can simply be at site somewhere and take a picture of what's going on, what's the result of an event or an action you're doing out there. You can document it by the images and upload them to the case, so everybody working with the case can see what's going on and see what you have documented. And you can provide textual feedback as you can on your computer. As I started with, I said we'll be looking at two kinds of events here. The first kind of event we have seen is now the critical incident. And you can see we have a flow going from raising the incident to review of the incident. You create your situation, you work with notifications, you have all the features in use for communication. And when you resolve the incident, you can document it and provide lessons learned. So when you next time are hit by a similar incident, you'll have improved your knowledge on how to deal with it. You don't do the same error again. And then of course you can close and terminate the incidents. When it comes to the non-critical incidents, it's not that it's not critical for the individuals involved in the incident. It might be, but for the company as a whole, it's not a critical. It's a minor financial impact it'll do to the company at the incident. You'll see we have a very similar flow for this kind of incidents, and I'll dig a little bit into the details of such an incident in the next slides. There's a lot of hazards in a company, especially if you're in industries like production and storage handling, goods handling, handling heavy equipment and so on. So you'll have a physical environment that you need to tend to. But of course, if you're in an office space, there can be hazards as well. And there can be near misses of incidents, meaning we can identify in the daily life that, oh, I was almost hit by the hot water coming out of the coffee machine, or I can be almost hit by the truck or the forklift. We can register these, and we can identify and see hazards that are in our environment, and we can see, oh, this can be developing into a near miss, or it can even be developing into an incident where someone is injured. And that is not the way we want our companies to be in the daily life. So when you're working with that, you can have, as you see here in my slide, that the workflow is that when the incident happens, you need to deal with it right away. You need to do whatever is in the emergency part of it. If it's severe here, person injured, of course, you'll call in the authorities with ambulances and then paramedics and what is needed. But then after the incident, you'll have a task to do, because you're obliged not to inflict a similar incident on another staff member in the future. So you need to work with prevention as well, which is a crucial part in this part of the application, working with future prevention. Again, the application is, of course, available on the smartphone. And the application will be available for all your users in the IT system, meaning most likely all your employees and all your contracted workers will have the ability to work with the application from initial, meaning anybody in the workplace will be able to work in the application, report an incident, report a near miss, or report a hazard they have identified. So they can easily do it because we have this capability of standard service requests that exist in ServiceNow. Is here boiled down to 3 standard elements you can report on. Say these are the elements. You fill in the title. You can provide some textual details about what's your observation. And again, you can of course open the camera. You can take images that support your report, enlighten what's going on, what is the hazard. Further, you have automatic fields that of information. So when did the situation occur? It'll initially fill out with the current date and time from your smartphone. And there's another tool in the smartphone. You have the GPS. The GPS knows where you are with a few meters accuracy. So you'll not be dealing with reports. Oh, there's a hole in the street near the red gate on building X. You will have a more precise location because the phone's GPS system says, okay, these are the coordinates of that. So you improve the quality of your reports. And again, with a smartphone, your team that's investigating the hazards, the near misses and the incidents, they'll have the information at hand when they go into the field or into your business area to work with the prevention of your future events or investigating what did actually go on here. And again, they don't need to sit somewhere, take notes, go back home and have second thoughts about what they noted. They can work with information directly in the system. Now we're going back to the computer screen because these are larger format information sheets. The system provides some capabilities about working with your data. Here we can see how we can overview all the details of a report. But further, the system has a capability to cluster information. So meaning that when you are working to prevent future events, you can have a drill down in your data. You can see, do incidents of a certain kind happen in specific places? Do they happen at specific days, time at day? Or are there specific individuals involved in incidents or hazards? And by that, you can see where do I have the hotspots of my operation. Are there any places I should go to prevent the next event because it's very similar, it'll be here? Or are incidents of a special severity happening in specific situations? You'll have information so you can be making your improvement more efficient. Of course, we integrate with the map. As we have the GPS coordinates, it's very likely that you'll say, okay, where did it happen? We can illustrate it just putting a sign on the map. So if you had 10 incidents in the same place, you'll have a lot of needles put into the map at that point, or you can see where they spread out if you have more locations. The core of ServiceNow is working with tasks for any kind of workload. And here we have, of course, the investigation team for an incident, near miss or whatever. And the investigating team can be set by a group of individuals. It can be some of your employees. It can be external partners that are integrated into your team. And each of them will have access to the system. And when you define tasks that an individual should work on, they have the documentation inside the service. Now they can go and see, okay, what tasks I'm used to do or should I do in the near future. And when they work on them, they can update the system with all the information they have at hand, and as we saw, images and other data. The tasks can be assigned to individuals, and they can be put into, for instance, a calendar view, or they can be connected to other tasks. So you know, I'm to perform this task when the previous task has been performed by someone else, and the system will document when it has been performed, so I can perform my duty in due time. An example of the mobile app, as you can see, if you know and use a smartphone, the elements in the screen, they'll be very likely to be the same as other applications, you know, so you'll not have a learning curve on the users of this application. It's very similar to what you do in everything else on your phone, so no educational task for just using the simple app. A really nice capability of ServiceNow is reporting. When you look at it and compare it to many business applications, you'll see that many business applications, they're not good at reporting, and if they can report, they can only report there on a specific type of events, or they can only report on their own data. ServiceNow has a broader capability. We do not need to load our data over to a data warehouse in order to run reports or have the nice reports we want. We have the capability built into the system. So whenever we want to run a report or make a dashboard, we do not rely on a nightly job transferring data to the data warehouse to do any scheduled run of the crunching. So if I want to report now, many business systems have to wait until tomorrow, or maybe next week, or month end, before I'll have this report. In ServiceNow, all data are kept in the system. And as we discussed earlier, we have integrations towards other systems. So information that is relevant for the work in ServiceNow will be migrated or integrated into ServiceNow, and ServiceNow has the capability of running reports on top of all that data. Furthermore, as the data is live in the system, we can run a report on it now. We'll have a report that actually shows what is the status in real time, meaning that if I run the report now and in a few moments my N updates the record she is responsible for, I can rerun my report and my NS update will be included in my report or my dashboard. That's a strength that is not found in many business systems. In many environments, you'll see that reports are mostly delivered for management. And we don't think this is a good idea in the context as reports are working in ServiceNow, because reports can be utilized much more valuable if they're spread out and customized to the need they suit around the organization. For instance, a service agent or a incident team member can have a report that runs and say, what are my most harshly performed tasks? Have I gotten new cases I need to work on? Have anything spun up so I can see and prioritize my work in a better way. I can see through a short list and say, okay, I need to work on case 3 because it's more emergent than the other cases on my list, or it brings higher value for the organization if I perform it first. And by that, you can improve the efficiency of the frontline workers in many cases. And of course, there's possible to build up management report. And a part of what we saw earlier about getting a view of the situation in the company across several locations, across several situations, is a report that's behind that, or dashboard that's behind that. One of the strong things about it, as you see here, some examples of visualization of data on information. We have more than 25 different standard types of ways to build a graph or a bar chart or pie chart, a donut chart, speedometer, or you mentioned more than 25 to choose from to visualize your data and information. A more strong feature is that when you get a report and you have access to the system, you can choose to drill down in the data. You can go from the view we have on the screen, you can go down to a single report that's in the data, or you can say, I want another perspective. I want to visualize not by this part of the data. I want it sorted in another way. I want it to display another way. And by doing analysis like this, you'll see that you can find hidden treasures in your data. It's been very valuable for other workflows, and quite obvious is here. We are on the Now platform, and on the Now platform, you have other applications as well. Here I have some green stuff. That's part of the ServiceNow standard governance, risk and compliance suite, where you can work with emergency handling as well, not in quite the same way as this one. So you have the ability, if you're working already with the GRC, as it's called, you can integrate it and you can feed information across the applications. You can make better views of it. You can make better management of your application by using the DXC. The blue ones, that are the newcomers of applications on the platform coming out just this spring for handling the COVID-19 situation in North America. And they have applications assisting organizations to handle specific situations that have arisen by the COVID-19. I think the applications will live longer than just the COVID-19 situation, because some of them has very strong capabilities in other areas as well. And I'm going to sum up what we have been seeing here, what we can do with this corporate incident response application.
And while you wrap up, Niels, just let me encourage everybody on the call to, if you have any questions, put them in the Q&A section and we'll handle the questions in a few minutes.
Sure. We'll provide you with a high degree of internal visibility of your situation, and you'll be able to overview the situation in whole. When it's coming to communication, you can easily and fast communicate to your management, and your management can take good, or at least fact-based decisions, and they can communicate the reply back to you or to all the employees and the partners you're working with. You have the ability to work with improvement of work safety. So you will have be less prone to incidents in the individual space further on. You'll have the situation room facilitated by automatic or semi-automatic workflows. You'll have response plans. The system will encourage you to work on your response plans, so you'll have prepared response plans for the situations you think you need to do it before. And it will provide you situation room with a 360-degree view on the information about the situation. And proactive media management, we have a suggestion for a handling plan for media management, so you can avoid the hazards of what's popularly called a shitstorm on social media. You can work with it, so don't develop into damaging your image. The application is not industry specific. It doesn't matter if you want to work with it in manufacturing, financial service, or public sector. It is capable of doing it in all sectors. Some of the clients that have installed this has reported some efficiencies and improvements they have gained by using this. And for instance, they have reported that they have reduced the compensation paid out to workers that have been involved in incidents with 12%. I think it's a nice number, but think about, it's not only the nice number 12%, because whenever you have an employee hit by an incident, you will have a negative impact in the production on top of that. A skilled worker going home being ill sometime is replaced by a rookie coming in from the street, perhaps, and he is not as productive as the skilled employee that went home. So you'll have an even larger loss behind that number. And now I'll go to the questions.
So I have a question coming in here. Why is it that you do not cover IT incidents in the scope of this application?
There's several reasons for that, because one of them is that IT has typically a separate working way. They're using, for instance, ITIL framework for doing their work, and they'll be managing IT major incidents in that. And when IT handle major incidents, they'll inform their customers about what's going on and what are they doing and when do they recover. But their customer is not the company's customer. IT, either it's an internal department or it's a third-party sourcing partner delivering your IT service. They'll inform the line of business, okay, we have an issue, we are working on it, we'll be ready for the next morning. You still have a situation in line of business. Line of business need to work with the real customers of the company, with the real partners of the company in order to do that. And that impact is much larger than just the IT. So we'll move the line of business work up to a separate level.
The next question is, do you have an indication of the pricing and maybe the packaging of the software for corporate incident response?
Yes, it comes in three flavors. You can you have two small packages with about half the application, and for both of them you get the situation room, and in one of the packages you'll have these ability to work with smaller incidents and preparation of the future security. And the other part is only about the larger incidents and management of those. And then we have a full package that provides you with everything of the application. And I only have the price in dollars. It's about $25,000 US for one of the small applications. That'll say 175,000 Danish kroner. And that covers the capabilities we discussed and 250 users. Additional users can be bought for $60 US or 360 kroner per year.
Okay.
And the full package, that's 50% more expensive for the base package. But it's the same per user price on top.
Okay, interesting. So I noticed you showed the landscape with the the emergency apps coming from ServiceNow. But can you discuss how integration into other ServiceNow elements and applications can be set up?
Sure. Primarily, I'd take you can take the ITSM way. That means the IT part of the business. The most likely thing occurring in IT that will go into the scope of the corporate incident response would be a major incident in an application. It could be a customer-facing application, could be a supply chain-facing. It'll impact the way business are operated currently. It may even stop operation in business. So this major incident information can automatically be fed into the situation room. So we will have instant knowledge on what's going on with our situation due to this IT incident. Another part that could be integrated into a work with sharing data is the customer service management system. In that, you'll have a portal facing your customers. So if you're seeing any disruption to your supply of services towards your customers, you'll be able to feed it out to the portal. You'll be able to communicate to your customers through the customer service management system. So if you're a network company of some kind and you experience an outage in an area, you can send the message from the situation room into the customer service management and communicating to the infected group of people, or customers rather. Delays can be communicated, and for distribution, for instance, can be that way through the customer portal.
Okay. So it sounds as if this is very tightly integrated into ServiceNow and into whatever you need to integrate.
Basically, it's working on the same data as all your other stuff, all your other applications you have in ServiceNow. And many of these data might be data that is shared with your other business systems.
Okay. I don't see more questions in in the Q&A. So thank you very much, Niels.
Oh, thank you for having me.
I hope everybody got information and inspiration from today's webinar.